I'm here with Ghulam Fernandez, and you have had some a lot of experiences around grief, trauma, and tragedy. And so I was hoping you could share with me today your personal experience around suicide. In one of the conversations that we had on the Question Guy podcast, you talked about a lot of your family members passing, your mother being the first when you were very young. And then at a certain point, your brother passed. And then from that, you lost your sister as well. Can you talk to us specifically about that correlation between your brother passing and then your sister passing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, my sister was very close to my brother. We all were, but each one has their own unique relationship. And so when I was around 30, my brother was about a year and a half older. He died very suddenly from a massive heart attack that
Mm,
none of us really in those days understood the signs or the lifestyle and all those sorts of things we're aware of now. So he thought he just had a chest infection. He was waiting to go and see the doctor. But while he was waiting for an appointment, he collapsed. And by the time they got him to hospital, he sadly, they couldn't revive him. So it just came as a complete shock. I often say that like, grief can come like a tsunami very suddenly and
yeah.
devastate life, or
Yeah.
it can drip effect over a period of time. Well, that was an example of really suddenly. And we were all struggling. I was really struggling. And I'd in fact decided I would hand in my notice, take time out to go traveling and make sense of all the, big questions that were now coming up about life and death and everything. And around that time, my younger sister, who we thought was coping really well because she was very lucid, she was very, she seemed very matter of fact, as if we were puzzled about how she could cope with it so well. What we didn't realize was that she wasn't really coping.
Mm.
It
She was
was,
hiding.
it was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it's as if her mind hadn't really accepted it. So she was talking about it. Well, these things happen, you've got to carry on with life, all those sorts of things. But we didn't realize that actually that can just be somebody putting on an impression of being strong and thinking they've got to hold it together. And she went on holiday. And while she was on holiday, she collapsed and was in a coma. They all assumed that it was some kind of meningitis or something, but it turned out that all the tests were clear. So they realized it must be something that was happening mentally. And then we realized that she'd actually had a mental breakdown. And she was very confused about who was alive, who was dead. We never had any experience of mental illness, so we were really confused by it. And she became depressed. She started, trying to take her own life. So we had her admitted to a hospital that we felt would be a safe place for her. But sadly, she walked out one day and she tried again and then she died. Um, the impact of that on a personal basis was huge because I had handed in my notice, I'd got my ticket, and then this happened. So I was very torn. And should I go? Should I take her with me? Should I not go? Anyway, I was with her for some time, but she then came out of it. She was back to what appeared to be her normal self. And she actually insisted, she said, no, you really need to go. You've already handed in your notice, you've got your ticket. And I was very torn, like, should I just cancel and be here for her? Should I go? Shouldn't I go? And I thought about taking her with me, but I had never traveled to India before. So I had no idea what the facilities would be like, if she had a relapse or, whether it would do her good or not do her good. In the end, allowed her to persuade me to go because I recognized that actually I do need to sort myself out because I was really struggling. And while I was there, I got a message saying she's had a relapse. So it would be good for you to come back. They didn't want to alarm me because I was traveling on my own. Um, So they kind of downplayed how serious it was, but they
Mm,
said it would be good for you to get back quickly, soon. So I thought, yeah, yeah, okay. And anyway, I was ready to head back. I felt much stronger and so on. And I was feeling like, oh, I know that I'll be able to be a better support to her now because I'm feeling, I've settled a few things in my heart. And I actually tried to phone her from Mumbai and say, look, I'm sorry to hear you've had a relapse. I'm coming back, hang in there. But I just couldn't get through. I mean, we were talking about this a long time ago, and there was no Zoom calls or WhatsApps or anything. And you had to ring your local exchange, who would ring the main exchange, who would ring then the main exchange in your country, who would then ring the local exchange, who would then ring the number that you wanted. And I just was really struggling to get through. And then this logical voice, which some of you have heard about if you watch one of my earlier episodes, popped up and said, don't worry about it. You'll see her tomorrow. So I thought, yeah, that's true. So she was alive when I set off from India. But by the time I landed, she'd actually walked out of the facility where I thought she was safe. And she tried again. She'd climbed up 3 stories or something and jumped from there. And she had died instantly.
wow.
So the thing about suicide is that people who are left behind can end up feeling like maybe I should have done something differently, or I should have done more of something, or I should have said something, or I should have noticed the signs. So there can be a lot of feelings of regret and guilt, which you can get stuck in if you're not aware of that's what's happening. And if you don't take time or get help to examine, is that really true guilt? Or is it a false sense of guilt? Because the reality was, in fact, when my other sister heard about it, she said, we were all here. We couldn't do anything. What makes you think that you being here would have made a difference? But in my head, if only I'd been here, if only I'd taken her with me, if only I hadn't gone, she might still be alive.
Right.
Um,
Ghulam, I appreciate your story. Thank you so much.